Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So continuing with the Quran interpreted by A.J. Arberry. 229 through the end of the chapter, maybe? Maybe that will go in a second video. Let's see here. Divorces twice, then honorable retention or setting free kindly. It is not lawful for you to take of what you have given them, unless the couple fear they may not maintain God's bounds. If you fear they may not maintain God's bounds, it is no fault in them for her to redeem herself. Those are God's bounds. Do not transgress them. Whosoever transgresses the bounds of God, those are the evildoers. If he divorces her finally, she shall not be lawful to him after that until she marries another husband. If he divorces her, then it is no fault in them to return to each other. If they suppose that they will maintain God's bounds, those are God's bounds. He makes them clear to a people who have knowledge. When you divorce women and they have reached their term, then retain them honorably, or set them free honorably. Do not retain them by force to transgress. Whoever does that has wronged himself. Take not God's signs in mockery, and remember God's blessing upon you, and the book and the wisdom he has set down on you to admonish you, and fear God and know that God has knowledge of everything. When you divorce women, and they have reached their term, do not debar them from marrying their husbands when they have agreed together honorably. That is an admonition for whoso of you believes in God and the last day. That is cleaner and purer for you. God knows and you know not. So obviously the idea that a husband can force his wife to stay married to her, and much less the idea that you can force somebody to marry you in the first place as being lawful in Islam, is completely refuted by that. And also the idea, it would have been better that he said irrevocable divorce, because that's what's being said here. But this idea of 3 divorces in a row, it's a bad habit. Some people do it, but a single final divorce, is okay. It's been through the waiting period and the waiting period and the waiting period and waiting period. It's not like you say 3 divorces in a row and then you triple the, the first chance is obviously the husband to say, well, you want to return to marriage? And then they return to marriage. But, with a new dowry, maybe new terms. Mothers shall suckle their children 2 years completely for such as desire to fulfill the suckling. So it's not required that they do that. But it is for the father to provide them and clothe them honorably. No soul is charged save to its capacity. A mother shall not be pressed for her child, neither a father for his child. The heir has a like duty, but if the couple desire by mutual consent and consultation to wean, then it is no fault in them. And if you desire to seek nursing for your children, it is no fault in you to provide you hand over what you have given honorably, and fear God, and know that God sees the things you do. And those of you who die, leaving wives, they shall wait by themselves 4 months and 10 nights. When they have reached their term, then it is no fault in you what they may do with themselves honorably. God is aware of the things you do, and there is no fault in you touching the proposal to women you offer or hide in your hearts. God knows that you will be mindful of them, but do not make troth with them secretly without you speak honorable words. Without you speaking honorable words. And do not resolve on the knot of marriage until the book has reached its term, and know that God knows what is in your hearts, so be fearful of him. and know that God is all forgiving, all clement. There is no fault in you if you divorce women while as yet you have not touched them, nor appointed any marriage portion for them. Yet make provision for them, the affluent man according to his means, and according to his means the needy man, honorably in obligation on the good doers. So annulment is something different, but it's still something to be careful of, and maybe they should have something. Not quite a dowry, but something. But as far as people marrying the divorced women and the widows, there will always be doubt. If they got married before the waiting period was over, there will always be doubt whether or not they violated that. So it has to wait. According to his means, and according to his means, the needy man, honorably in obligation on the good doers. And if you divorce them before you have touched them, and you have already appointed for them a marriage portion, then 1/2 of what you appointed, unless it be they make remission, or he makes remission in whose hand is the knot of marriage, yet that you should remit is near to God-fearing. Forget not to be bountiful one towards another. Surely God sees the things you do. The person acting on behalf of the woman can go and take care of that. But that's not saying that there's a bride price, that you have to pay somebody or pay a family for the privilege of marrying one of them. That's not part of Islam. And be watchful over the prayers and the middle prayer, and do you not stand obedient to God? Some say, the middle prayer, sunset, dusk, dawn. That's the one that people miss most. But other people say, the middle of the day, the early afternoon prayer, the middle of the afternoon, the late afternoon prayer. But some people say, there's the outer form of the prayer and the inner form of the prayer. So there could be something more that other people interpret. Comment in the comment section. I want to hear it if there's something else. Whether or not I agree with you, it's, comment. And if you are in fear, then a foot are mounted. But when you are secure, then remember God as he taught you the things that you knew not. Then those of you who die, leaving wives, let them make testament for their wives, provision for a year, without expulsion. But if they go forth, there is no fault in you, what they may do with themselves honorably. God is almighty, all-wise. There shall be for divorced women provision honorable, and obligation on the God-fearing. So God makes clear his signs for you, haply you will understand. Hast thou not regarded those who went forth from their habitations in their thousands, fearful of death? God said to them, die. Then he gave them life. Truly God is bounteous to the people, but most of the people are not thankful. So fight in God's way and know that God is all-hearing, all-knowing. Who is he that will lend God a goodly loan, and he will multiply it for him manifold? God grasps and outspreads, and unto him you shall be returned. Hast thou not regarded the counsel of the children of Israel after Moses, when they send to a prophet of theirs, raise up for us a king, and we will fight in God's way? He said, might it be that if fighting is prescribed for you, you will not fight? And they said, why should we not fight in God's way, who have been expelled from our habitations and our children? Yet when fighting was prescribed for them, they turned their backs, except a few of them. And God has knowledge of the evildoers. And then their prophet said to them, verily God has raised up Saul for you as a king. Jalut. What was it? Talut? Yeah, Talut. They said, there's a few different language versions of that. From the ancient Egyptian to the Aramaic to the Arabic, and Anyways, God has raised up Saul for you as a king. And they said, how should he be a king over us, who have better right than he to kingship, seeing he has not been given amplitude of wealth? He said, God has chosen him over you and increased him broadly in knowledge and body. God gives the kingship to whom he will, and God is all-embracing, all-knowing. And their prophet said to them, the sign of his kingship is that the ark will come to you. In it the Shekinah, angelic presence and tranquility and all that, from your Lord, and a remnant of what? The folk of Moses and Aaron's folk left behind, and the angels bearing it. Surely in that shall be a sign for you, if you are believers. So obviously, the state of a democracy, that is a theocracy, is preferred. But people all like, well, let's have a republic. Let's have a king. Wait, we don't want that king. Didn't you want a king? Didn't you want a, And that eventually is the thing. Some people, they'll prefer king, and then they either don't get the king that's good for the people right away, or they don't get it eventually. That's what happened with the Islamic Empire. 30 years went by, and rather than being ruled more or less how Islam is taught, it was replaced by other things, which got less and less and less until the Uthmani, back in the 16 teens, acted in such a way that it was clear they weren't an Islamic empire, but it waited to Ataturk till say, no, we're not. So, the pretending was over. And when Saul went forth with their host, he said, God will try you with the river. Whosoever drinks of it is not of me, and whoso tastes it not, he is of me, saving him who scoops up with his hand. But they drank of it, except a few of them. And when they crossed it, and those who believed with him, they said, we have no power today against Goliath and his host. Send those who reckon they should meet with God. How often a little company is overcome a numerous company by God's leave, and God is with the patient. So when they went forth against Goliath, the Bible actually lists 3 of them, and his host, they said, our Lord, pour upon us patience, and make firm our feet, and give us aid against the people of the unbelievers. And they routed them by the leave of God, and David slew Goliath. Who else slew Goliath? And God gave him the kingship and the wisdom, and taught him such as he willed. Had God not driven back the people, some by the means of others, the earth had surely been corrupted, and God is bounteous unto all beings. And these are the signs of God we recite to thee in truth, and assuredly thou art of the number of the envoys. And those messengers, some we have preferred above others, some there are to whom God spoke, and some he raised in rank, and we gave Jesus the Son of Mary the clear signs, and confirmed him with the Holy Spirit. And had God willed with those who came after them, we would have fought one against the other after the clear signs have come to them, but they fell into variance. And some of them believed, and some of them disbelieved, and had God willed, they would have not fought one against the other, but God does whatsoever he desires. O believers, expend of that therewith we have provided you, before there comes a day wherein shall be neither traffic, nor friendship, nor intercession, and the unbelievers, they are the evildoers. God, there is no God but he, the living, the everlasting. Slumber seizes him not, neither sleep. To him belongs all that is in the heavens and the earth. Who is there that shall intercede with him? Save by his leave, he knows what lies before them, and what is after them, and they comprehend not anything of his knowledge, save such as he wills. His throne compromises the heavens and the earth. The preserving of them oppresses him not. He is the all-high, the all-glorious. No compulsion is there in religion. Rectitude has become clear from error. So whoever disbelieves in idols and believes in God has laid hold of the most firm handle. Unbreaking God is all-hearing, all-knowing. God is the protector of the believers. He brings them forth from the shadows into the light. And the unbelievers, their protectors, are the idols that bring them forth from the light into the shadows. And those are the inhabitants of the fire. They're indwelling forever. There are other things about God as, the supreme guru, in a way of speaking. But before that, we have the best verse in the Quran. And after that, a verse that really fits when we encounter that. But let's go over those two verses.